And welcome back to the last set of the European SMITE Challenger Circuit. My name is Gormizer. Joining me on the desk for this third and final set. It's weird to say that on a Thursday, but the third and final set today is going to be Mifflin.
Wait, how many do we normally have?
4.
Wow.
Do you remember that?
No.
You weren't here last Friday or Thursday. That's right. Lucky you. Either way, it was just a really long day, man. It's going to be a fun one to watch. We'll close out Europe and figure things out. And if I am doing my math correctly, now that's a huge old if.
I trust you.
There's some fun things that can happen based on the Styx Ferrymen here, and we'll see how things potentially shake up for them. But a big win here could potentially shake up the standings. We can take a peek at the schedule to see how things have already gone today. And I can go ahead and tell you, it's been a pretty quick day for Europe. 2 O's all around. The Mambo being able to spice things up. That's probably the most important portion of this by getting themselves a 2-0 and turning on the heat, as Trelly had said here at the very end of the day. The Ravens knocking the Gladiators. Now, that one's very important, mainly because the Gladiators plus-minus goes down pretty significantly. And when you look over towards the standings, you'll see that they are hovering just slightly ahead of the Styx Ferrymen. And that's why this set becomes a lot more interesting. When it comes down to plus-minuses, head-to-heads, the Gladiators beat the Ferrymen earlier this year, but because of that 2-0 loss, they should be around -2. And the Styx Ferrymen currently have a -3. So winning 2-0 bumps them up to a -1.
Wow.
And would theoretically give them the plus-minus advantage. I guess we'll get to see whether or not anything like that
Wait, is it head-to-head
happens.
first or plus-minus first?
Now, see, that's always the fun question that I always lose myself in. In my mind,
it's got to be head-to-head first.
Really, because I think
so.
in my mind, head-to-head is usually our like absolute tiebreaker. Because like theoretically, set score first makes the most sense, right? If you've been winning, you tend to do well. Then how many maps it took you to win. If you won 4 sets, they won 4 sets. You're both 4-2 or something. This is all completely made up. But you won them all in 2 O's and they won them all in 2 1s, then you win one harder. And so theoretically, maybe that goes up anyway. I guess we'll get to find out how this ends up working out here. As we watch throughout this one, it's going to be, again, I opened up the Gilded Gladiators on this because I was talking about them so much, but that's not the team that we're going to be talking about. It's the Styx Ferrymen going up against the Aaru Scorpions, Mifflin. And again, it's going to give us a very, I want to say just fun showcase today. Gunter, I have to give a lot of credit for. Gunter comes up a lot when I'm looking at the team's stats. He is one of the biggest leaders, the KDA leader, First Blood leader. Things are going to happen around that player.
Yeah, and for those of you not in the know, you should be, but I'll break it down for you one more time. This phase, Styx Ferrymen comprised of Be Azriel in the Soul Lane, Ice in the jungle, Gunter through mid, Okeanos in support, and Streak Up in the Hunter role. That is a star-studded roster through and through. Surprised that they have not had a higher level of success so far this year, because this is a team that has been very successful in the past. Each one of these individual players very used to being dominant in the SCC in their own right. It feels like this is a team that really had the potential to I suppose, shake things up in the standings now that we've got hindsight as our 2020. But so far has largely been struggling, and I think the issues that surround the Styx Ferrymen are the same issues that we had highlighted for the Oni Homies or the Oni Warriors in the past, in that even when they are establishing a lead, which is not generally an issue for Styx Ferrymen, it's what are you doing with that lead? How are you transitioning that lead into a win? Is it around objectives? Are you going to try and siege these towers? Are you looking for the team fight? And I'm asking that question. It feels like they also are, because at times it just feels like they don't know what quite they want to do.
Yeah, it'll be fun to watch how they, again, in a set that is as important for them as this one, see how they can shape things up, show up, and maybe win themselves something massive. They're going up against the Aaru Scorpions. Now, the Aaru Scorpions, if you've been watching the last couple of weeks, haven't had the start, or realistically so far, the end of the phase that they would like. Maybe able to find something, get their first win here, but they are 0-4. And it is, as you can see there on the right side of the screen, at least temporarily, Ugly One, French Emperor, Picorino, Calvin, as well as Davey. And now, Mifflin, I don't mean to call them out, but I will, just because I have them in front of me. For every team, and I've started doing this for the SCC, I like to list, like, highest KDA, lowest KDA, where the first bloods are going. And, I just mentioned it, Gunter, for the team they're going up against the Ferrymen, a lot of first bloods, highest KDA typically on the team. So you expect some play from the Ferrymen out of the mid lane. Ugly One, highest KDA, and most first bloods on this team. So it feels like much more solo-oriented for the Aaru Scorpions. The downside is Davy. And this is something that's interesting because Davy and Calvin, in my mind, are a really, really strong duo that we just maybe haven't gotten to see push to that fruition. And unfortunately for Davy right now, at least coming into this week, a 0.5 KDA. So things haven't been going very cleanly on the left side of the map.
And unfortunately for this squad, this is not a solo lane meta. This is not a meta where you are playing through the short lane more often. It's generally around that dual lane where you want to establish your pressure, and so far the Aaru Scorpions have struggled to do so this year. I think the Aaru Scorpions are a team that is comprised of a lot of individual talent that has not quite been able to tie in together. They haven't really meshed into a team. So it's hard to say what are they doing poorly as a squad because they're still trying to figure out their own individuals. They're still trying to figure out what it is that each one of these guys is doing very well and how that fits into a team concept. And I think that's fine. You need the first portion of the year to figure that out, sure. But going unwinning so far has been a major struggle, never feels great, could act as a bit of a pressure point for these guys. So I'm expecting every single time we watch them, I'm going to keep my eyes personally on what is it that they are trying to establish as their team identity? What is it that they want to do well and that they can transition into other sets that they can take with them and learn from and continue to grow and build upon? Because as of now, I don't know what this team's identity is. And well, that doesn't bode very well.
Well, I'll go ahead and tell you, the numbers tend to agree with you, right? I went to look at it and be like, well, surely there's been like a couple of 2-1s where it's just been nothing but losses over here. I was going to say, well, they've got certain win rates with blank, blank, and blank, but nope, the picks column and the loss column on my spreadsheet are literally identical, and it is not often that I get to see that. So this is going to be a big deal for them because they also have an opportunity here, Mifflin, that they can play upset. They can kind of mess with the Ferrymen's fate. Again, we're talking about it. If you're wondering, where is it? What does top 4 even matter? We're looking towards Masters in a few weeks from now, where all 8 SPL teams, top 4 from North America, which will finalize after tomorrow, and then, of course, top 4 in Europe, which will be finalized right after this set, are all going to be playing against each other. 16 teams, 2 weeks, 1 winner. For a lot of money. And so realistically, you want to be able to push through. It's going to be, I think, 8 days, Thursday through Sunday, 2 weeks in a row of competition. Hardest, I think, for these SCC teams. So we'll get to see what they have to offer when they come by. Anyway, picks and bans are rolling through. Bacchus, Daji, and the Jormungandr banned out here by the Styx Ferrymen. And on the other side, we've got the Atlas, the Emoja, and the Thoth, notably that we saw a lot of in those highlights. And it wouldn't be Europe, Mifflin. If there wasn't at least one Heimdall first pick in a day.
And Heimdall as a first pick, not one that I'm generally going to argue against. Very safe, fits in the majority of compositions very well, incredibly difficult to gank. So if you are looking to play through your dual lane, he can similarly get aggressive. Gjallarhorn's a great chase down tool.
Go forth, my children,
if you want
and
to play
take
through the
over
rest of
this
the map,
land.
Heimdall is just fine to be left alone on an island. But, Gore, yesterday we got to sit down with the Camelot Kings during hanging with the pros, and I got to make a bit of a fun tier list with the Camelot Kings. And this is a direct quote from Captain Twig. You just gotta be real dumb if you're playing Jormungandr. So, I told him at the time to inform the entirety of the European SCC that Jormungandr is not all that good. Seems they weren't paying attention, though, yesterday because Jormungandr banned out the first time.
What I really liked is that it felt like every god that playlist, like the criteria shifted a little bit as to like what you were truly evaluating. Like there were some where it's just like, I've never lost a 1v1 to this dude and that's all he's good at. And so they got lowly ranked. And then like I think you started with Ymir. Like I imagined the guy behind the screen is not.
That was the nature of the tier list.
Yeah. It was It was an interesting, like, 45 minutes.
It's the longest tier list ever.
It was really fun to watch. Either way, catching up on him, it is the Heimdall, the Terra. That is I want to say an EU special, alongside the Bologna here for the Ferrymen. On the other side, Sobek, Tiamat, and it is the Cthulhu that gets locked in. And Mifflin, I mean, when I'm looking for teamfight, the Scorpions got a lot of what you need.
They do. Sobek in the support role generally, I think, has fallen a little bit in the power rankings just because there's so much CC immunity available to the meta hunters. There's so much CC immunity in the meta selection. So Sobek, who had already struggled historically to find opportunities to look for that pluck. Again, a quote I will never not say when Sobek gets locked in. This is directly from iRaffer. If you
Notable
land a
European
pluck,
player.
Notable European player. If you pluck somebody, a carry, that has got beads, you're just going to die. And that is simply the case for Sobek come late game. So you have to look at the rest of the draft built around this Sobek, who is consistently the beads burner for the Aaru Scorpions. I don't think they have one.
Step aside.
Now they have one, and it's Surcat.
But even then, consistency.
It's like single target. You're going to consistently at least burn it off one, and because your primary beads burning on Surcat is on non-ultimate, I think that it's a little bit less egregious, but still a composition I think that is a little bit back and forth. When you have a Cthulhu in your draft, you're saying to yourself, okay, those late game team fights, that's what we're looking towards, that's what we want to play around. But then you have Sobek and Surcat, and those are both heavily pick-based gods, so it's not really about the team fight anymore. The Aaru Scorpions, I think, have a composition that has the ability to win out very heavily in the early, but once they do get to that team fight, maybe it muddled up a little bit.
Well, we'll see whether or not the Ferrymen can make their dreams come true. If the Scorpions here are going to play upset, and again, the third and final set of Europe today. Game number 1 between these two, kicking it off right now in Mifflin. Again, a lot of weight here for the Ferrymen. They get the Kleena, they get the Merlin. First off, Kleena makes it so far down the list and still is able to go through.
Yeah, Jormungandr got banned out in the first phase, by the way.
Yeah, and they let the... Well,
and
admittedly, the Jormungandr got banned by the team that picked the Kleena, so they're happy.
Geniuses. Full stop.
Full stop.
Yeah.
They got exactly what they wanted. They played the mind games, and it's gone in their favor. Cthulhu going up against Bologna. That's, I feel like, a matchup. Like, we've seen both of these picks in the solo lane like a lot lately, but I don't think I've seen them against each other.
Yeah, well, what you can expect from this matchup is likely be Asriel to just sustain the entirety of the early portion of the game. Just Death Toll plus Bludgeon means that there's really not much that Ugly One can do in the 1v1, so it's more so, I think, a wet noodle match over there. There's not a whole lot of potential for a whole lot of kills, unless the junglers get involved. And if the junglers do get involved, I think I'm still favoring the Styx Ferrymen, just because Ice with that channeled silence might be able to catch out Ugly One mid-dash. It's essentially like a built-in frame trap. And then you've also got the potential of chase down with Asriel once he ticks over to level 5. Whereas the French Emperor will struggle to find out those kills because Cthulhu is not the best follow-up on a Surcat gang.
Not particularly enticing, right? Yeah, you walk over there and
he might descend into madness.
Yeah, you can knock him up and usually gives a little bit of damage, but you're going to be relying heavily on yourself. I wanna get confirmation because this just occurred to me. Wet noodle matchup, I'm assuming is like a spaghetti noodle and not like a pool noodle, because a wet pool noodle can still be used pretty aggressively as a weapon. That'll leave a red mark.
Maybe like a singular strand of moist yarn.
A singular strand of moist yarn.
Yeah.
I can say I've never been slapped with moist yarn, so I have no frame of reference.
It's super hard.
Oh, gets a little low there, but no, they're looking for the turnaround. The damage follow-up onto Davies, almost there! And they're going to drop the sword, but it's not enough to find the kill.
Stun.
The walls get the stun, the dash is on, and Okeanos with the 1-2 punches him down into the ground.
Calvin, no pluck, just slam Streak up with it. Good damage of body blocks may have been enough. That pluck's going to be coming up shortly, but will not stick the kill. Calvin lets that one go away. Okeanos and Streak up barely survived this trade. That's a great start for the Styx Ferrymen over in the dual lane. It's something I talked about during P's and B's. Heimdall can either be that guy who just sits in your lane and farms up and rotates the objectives at level 20 and shreds objectives, or he can dominate. Well, getting off to a first blood start before the 2-minute mark tends to lean towards dominate.
Ooh, damage. Calvin kind of still looking for some fun to happen on this side of the map. And this is where things can get interesting as a Sobek. First off, I don't know if I expect too much. You're going up against Terra, so the healing is there. Streak Up went from virtually dead, 1 hit away, to full health in just a couple of seconds. Okeanos trailing a little behind there, but I saw the health pots getting ticked over, so I assume that they're going to be more than fine. But you get first blood, admittedly onto your Terra, but it still gets Streak Up a nice assist. Should be some interesting control for the Ferryman that starts immediately on left. I was wondering if there was maybe going to be an engage, because French Emperor is pretty deep. Gunter with potential to maybe try and do a cutoff for that pathing, but yeah, opts not to fight. The Ferrymen take the win and just kind of play it slow from there.
Yeah, not much for them to do on the map as of now. No neutral objectives have spawned up. I mean, first rotation of buffs or second rotation of buffs
just spawned, and there wasn't really the opportunity to look for that invade for the Styx Ferrymen, considering how low Streak Up and Okeanos both were. So instead, it's just that first blood bounty over to the Styx Ferrymen, as well as a couple pieces of neutral farm on the map to create a small gap over in the duo lane. Keep your eyes on these junglers, though. Both have elected to go for relatively fast starts. Eye of the jungle in the first slot means you're benefiting from at least a little bit of power.
Well, there's some aggression. Davey has the dash and is holding on as long as he can, but there's not much you can do. You can only go in one direction here. And unfortunately, it is surrounded by the Ferrymen. And a second kill on the board, twice now onto the carry for the Scorpions.
Man, look, we've seen a couple of Terra walls like that recently, where you just throw out the second ability and it pins someone up against one of those corners. I'm never willing to admit that it might be intentional, because that was just frame and pixel perfect placement from Okeanos. There was no counterplay for Davey from there, except for maybe they had a Phantom Shell, but we're 4 minutes in, so that is an unreasonable ask. Otherwise, maybe if Davey were level 5, had he not been first blood a little bit earlier, could have also survived that situation. I suppose another unreasonable ask. The Aaru Scorpions now down 2 to the Styx Ferrymen.
It's going to create, again, a little lead for him. What, 1,300 gold? So not like...
That's a lot.
Yeah,
a lot at this
actually,
point.
5 minutes in, yeah, they're feeling the lead. Stun not going to connect right there. Okeanos trying to get aggressive alongside Gunter. They're going to strip away a red buff and go ahead and walk away. No, they actually end up assisting the Scorpions, if you want to call it that, and picking that one up. Pluck is good on Streaka, but now they're just going for Davey. Davey with a good dash to the wall, avoids the ult from the Heimdall. Now up into the skies.
Oh, he's
Can
gone.
they wait? He is, yeah, just trying to get out of here as far as possible. Streak Up abandons that fight, and now it's going to be a rally around the Scorpions. Okeanos plucked back into the waiting arms of everybody, but it's the damage from Ice Ice. It forces Davey back. Calvin can't do much. The leap forward is there. Knockup's good, but Picarino does not have the damage on their own. Thrown by the French Emperor, and the poison will spread, and it's a 1 kill for the jungler.
Ice Eyes used his dash a little bit early. French Emperor may have stuck around too long. It's kill credit over to Gunter as Picarino leaps back into that tier 1 tower. The rest of the duo lane has already vacated the scene, and even when the Aaru Scorpions are able to find one, it is immediately answered by the Styx Ferrymen. Take a peek at some of the XP disparities that have already established themselves. 2 levels now for Streak Up in ADC. You've got about a half level for Gunter. Picarino just now taking it back over towards 7. You got 1 level over in solo. Somehow Asriel been allowed to do whatever he wants in that lane. And the Styx Ferrymen benefiting and continuing to grow the gold lead that they had established at, what was that, second wave?
Yeah.
It started early and has not slowed down.
We'll see whether or not... I guess at this point, if you can just keep it up, right, you get a really good amount of control over there on left. And that's where, admittedly, it's between Gunter and Streak Up, right? Both of those names, absolutely massive players in the European SCC scene through months and months and years at this point actually play when it comes down to this level. Whereas right now, again, I recognize Calvin, Picarino, and what they've been able to accomplish, but it has been ugly one as the leader for this team in terms of pressure that they've been able to get. And as you can see right there, very much what you had said earlier. Cthulhu, maybe not the best at going to chase down Asriel on this Bologna. And Asriel as well, someone I don't think I was very familiar with going into this phase and looking at these teams. But Asriel has been a treat to watch in the solo lane, and I think this Bologna it just continues what I expect out of them. I think, someone who wants to be aggressive, who wants to kind of jump in, kick the fights off, and Bologna matches that style pretty easily.
Yeah, Asriel has had himself a very good phase so far. And just to further elaborate on that lane matchup between Bologna and Cthulhu, Bologna is just going to sustain the majority of poke that Cthulhu is able to put out, thanks to that Death Toll, thanks to Bludgeon, having some defense already. So, once French Emperor does rotate over to that lane, if he does choose to gank, well, he's got to contend with a full HP B Asriel. And we saw what the matchup looks like once B Asriel decides he no longer wishes to fight. Ultimate over the wall, and then Ugly One descends into madness and says, oh wait, mine doesn't actually take me over walls. Tries to throw out that knockup, can't really do it.
You can see over that wall.
You can see over it, and he knows exactly what's happening, which might be the cruelest thing. Knows exactly where B Asriel is the entire time, but there's nothing he can do about it. Styx Ferrymen, and in the soul lane at least, have got themselves a matchup that is heavily favored to the Bologna.
Wow, impressive to see. Presence from Calvin in the dual lane. Pluck not even used, but just being there that close to Streak Up forces the ult. So Streak Up not going to have that. Still has the beads available though. And so maybe not a lot of danger, but something more in terms of the safety taken away. Stun in mid onto Picarino. Oh my god, the damage follow-up as well. And they just slay the Tiamat. Now it's a taunt on to Okeanos from the French Emperor, but I don't know that that's a fight anybody on the Scorpions wants to take right now.
Yeah, it looked to me like Picarino knew exactly where Gunter was. Peeks around the corner, had complete tunnel vision, horse blinders on, only had his eyes for the Merlin, did not realize that Okeanos was creeping up on him. Easiest stun of the Terra's life, and that damage output came out very, very quickly. Surprised that Picarino, A, doesn't just immediately leap away after the stun. I feel like he had time, doesn't have to allow the entirety of Gunter's kit to hit him. What is it? Terra's stun, incredibly strong, yes. Is it strong enough to set up for 3 actual abilities from Merlin? No. Or, if it is, it isn't, by the way, but if it was, he has beads. I feel like that was a very avoidable death.
There was a long period of you're stunned in damage that those beads, guess what? Like you said, they were available. It wasn't like they were on like the last 10 seconds or something.
There were multiple checks in his brain where he's like, do I need a beads? No, 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 no. Yes, 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 but it never comes out.
Yeah. Well, by the time the yes hit, the death was there, right? Like you're in the sepia-colored screen. You have nothing that you can really work with. Just unfortunate there in the mid lane for things to go down that quickly. 2-0 start for the Merlin, 1 level lead. And the Divine Ruin finish. They're getting aggressive over on solo lane though, and it is going to be right now. Ice trying to run away.
Done.
The ult gets thrown out by French Emperor, and that tick damage will be enough. But Ice, no teammates nearby. It's just another kill onto the jungler. But now French Emperor is going to be up that 2-1. It doesn't seem like they're going to be able to get too active anywhere else on the map. Even now, going deep in the jungle, maybe looking for some invades. Okeanos plucked back. Because of where the French Emperor is, I don't think there's any threat in mid.
No, not quite. Maybe with Davey joining the fight, there could be. No way this dive continues. It's a dash forward from Gunter and great damage.
And Gunter almost happy that that pluck comes through. Could have turned around Davey so low, but is out of there. French Emperor hanging around in the jungle again, kind of searched and scrounged for anything they could find on the right side of the map. Good aggression from the Scorpions. A lot of investment for very little payoff, but they do still showcase, I think, a lot of power. Unfortunately, Calvin, ooh, you got to be careful in this kind of position. Yeah, the amount of damage they have lurking around the corner for you, it's going to be too much. It seems like the Scorpions going to pump the brakes a little bit, fall back, and keep this just a little over 2K in favor of the Ferrymen.
Styx Ferryman ADC, Streak Up decides to just hang out in lane, doesn't have the same global presence Davey does, and uses that time to take out the tier 1 tower, keep that level gap to 2 levels as well. Davey essentially cannot play inside of this lane. The 1v1 no longer exists. It's Davey's here to clear waves, and that's it, and try his best to catch up. Should be a little bit easier to do so now that you don't have to move up to a tier 1 tower.
Yeah, I mean, you can play aggressively. Guess what? That purple buff might as well be yours. And so play aggressive as you want. You have the damage, you have the control, and they're at least going to be able to take that one. Like you said, the tower going in their favor helps push this gold lead, again, a little further forward, but maybe not to its max. Here's a weird question for you.
Please.
And this one's just fun because I like thinking of Heimdall. And so the way it works, the Bifrost, the further the crystals are away, the longer that cooldown's going to be.
And the longer it takes the channel.
And the longer it takes the channel. But theoretically, you could late game drop a crystal, you know, around like where the blue buff is over here for the Ferrymen, and then split push, similar to a Chernobog. And if your team really needs you, drop a crystal, wait the almost massive amount of time it's going to take to transport you across the map, but then you'll at least be there, and probably a little faster than it would take for you to walk over.
And Gore,
to
play with your point as well, between both crystals is a giant little thread, and if you walk through it, it acts as a ward, so having it across the entire map might do something.
Well, right now, what might do something, Azrael is just getting dunked on by 3 people, but it doesn't seem to be doing too much to the Bologna here. Running away, knockup is good, but the ult hasn't even been used by Azrael. Disengage, still available. Davey comes in with the ultimate.
You sure, Davey?
Does not seem like Davey wants to take this fight. Same thing can be said for Ice though. Them plus Azrael very low. Ugly One trying to dash away and stay alive. Gunter plucked in. But it seems like it is just the Sobek right now trying to win this fight.
Good
Picarino's
Aegis.
looped around, and now Gunter's taking too much damage. The dash forward. French Emperor snakes that one through from the team, but gets the third for the Scorpions.
Yeah, it seems like
Very
Gunter
fitting.
yeah, has had some poor conditioning so far this game. Flickers forward, 3 times in a row, and finally on the third gets punished for it. The Aaru Scorpions able to pick themselves up a kill. But they cannot go towards the objective. Okeanos shows face, and that's all it takes. Ice, similarly nearby, has got decent steal potential without ultimate. Surprised to see this, though. Streak Up rotates out. I thought he was just going to sit in lane.
Yeah, again, maybe surprising just to see him anywhere on the map over there, especially after my highlighted patented crystal play. They're going to get the Pyromancer. And admittedly, it's a lot easier to, again, if you're looking for timings to get over to that side of the map, backing to the base, buying an item, running up, and joining your team is going to help things out. No way do they feel this confident. Should be, oh no, it's not a sentry, so they don't even know there's a ward there from the Scorpions. I thought we were about to watch a play from the Pyromancer immediately over to the Gold Fury. Instead, it's just Okeanos playing a little aggressively, maybe a little too aggressively. Davies here, Calvin's here. It doesn't seem like they're going to have the lockdown nor the want to chase down this Terra.
Yeah, worth noting that Okeanos, although has been involved in the majority of fights, has 75% kill participation for his team, still has spent so much time trying to chase out these fights, has spent so much time trying to set up these kills, that he has fallen pretty significantly behind his counterpart. Calvin, level 12, already has access to that second relic, so it's Shell and Blink available to this Sobek, whereas Okeanos, at level 11, just recently ticks over to level 11, by the way, will not have that second relic for a good while. This could be an opportunity for the Aaru Scorpions to attempt to make a play around this Gold Fury before that second relic becomes available to Okeanos. But the rest of the Scorpions, still pretty far behind, nearly 4,000 gold, might dissuade them from making use of that time.
Yeah, there's not a lot of wiggle room for you with this kind of lead. 15 minutes in, it feels like the Ferrymen can at least turn around a lot of the fights. Though we'll have to see. French Emperor has been the leader for the Scorpions so far. They've got the lockdown on Okeanos. Not enough to be able to find that. I think it is perfect for them, though. French Emperor is going to make like Serket the God they play. For them to get all the kills on the Aaru Scorpions. It just feels like everything lines up here from top to bottom. Unfortunately for them, again, like you had mentioned, it's still about 3,000 gold, and now they're losing pressure around the Gold Fury. It's going to be started up by the Styx Ferrymen. Calvin's here, Davies going to show up, and it looks like they will walk up to this, the Scorpions that is. It's 3/4 HP taken down on the Fury, and now it's Ugly One up in the Descent into Madness, trying to find the knockups, the control. Azrael getting bullied around, forced to use that Eagles rally for a disengage. Okeanos stuns them out and stays alive. The damage now is going to be the question. It's going to be Gunter, at least with the first one kill onto Calvin. French Emperor around the corner. Was laying in wait, but it's going to be the Gold Fury pulled one more time by the Ferrymen.
Styx Ferrymen fast playing this one. Going back for the immediate pull is dangerous. Okeanos playing with, 300 HP to his name. That is any individual ability from the Aaru Scorpions probably going to shut him down. So the Styx Ferrymen, wise in their decision to go ahead and reset that objective. They've realized now that they take team fights pretty cleanly from here, despite playing up against a Cthulhu, despite having to survive a double stack up primordial onslaught from Picarino. French Emperor gets a pretty impactful ultimate as well, and even in those circumstances, the Styx Ferrymen come out clean on the other side. So why not reset, spend the gold from that small win, small to be sure, only one kill over to the Ferrymen. Spend that gold, group up on the Gold Fury, do it all over again. You've got great burn potential. That is a massive threat to the Aaru Scorpions between Merlin and Kleena. The Scorpions have to show up. They have to try and put up a defense, which means the Styx Ferrymen, just by being there, is so threatening that it's going to control the positioning of the Aaru Scorpions.
Not a lot of relics that were burned in the last one, and the ults that were, Mifflin, guess what? They're back up by this point, so not being able to take advantage maybe of any large windows for either squad. So it is just going to be aggression in the lane.
Juke.
Missed pluck. And like you said, good juke from Streak Up. makes it so that they can just nonchalantly wander back to their tower while Calvin smacks him a couple of times. They've got Ice, and Calvin's still aggressive. They're going to get sent through the realms, and Ice is going to wait here with Streak Up. The damage should be there on follow-up, but can they kill the Guardian as tanky as they are? Lurking in the waters, Okeanos is coming through for the CC when they need it. Walls are good to force pathing, but Calvin, at this point, it is just the slow burn. They get the kill, and Azriel has rotated over to mid, where things don't seem to be going as well for the Ferrymen. Gunter, low-ish health, sitting a little over half. Azriel, on the other hand, needs to get out. Still going to be a pull onto the Gold Fury. A win on left and neutral territory there in mid. The Ferrymen feel confident in their capabilities to get this objective, and they get it.
Gotta give credit to Davey, though. My man has ulted towards mid. What was that, the 5th time he's ulted out of lane?
He's ready to go.
My man is attempting to make plays, has tried to help out his team, has very nearly hit pay dirt a couple of times, has not done so quite yet. 0-2-1 for the Cherno Bog, but not gonna give up on it, it would seem. Davey consistently rotating to every single one of these team fights. Only 2 levels down, that disparity has not grown, so not even missing out on all that much farm. That said, the Styx Ferrymen are continuing to keep up their aggression all the way across the map. Take a peek at the builds as well. Streak Up deciding to go for something that is slightly unorthodox from what we used to. Picks up some crit, win that last slot. Wind Demon. So, Fire Giant, Pyromancer, neutral objectives all going to burn that much quicker once Streak Up gets there. And, well, burn is already the name of the game for the Styx Ferrymen. I talked about it earlier, but not just Merlin, not just Cleanup, but even Azriel with that Eagles Rally ultimate will make Streak Up deal more damage, will make Ice more effective. Okeanos, a very good iron wall to act as a goaltender on these objectives. 19.5 minutes in with a gold lead and experience lead like this, I don't think we're far away from a Pyromancer or a Fire Giant play from the Order team.
No, I thought, and now I'm curious about it, but we can hold that thought as we see some aggression in the solo lane. Azriel goes forward with their ultimate, does not find the stun on the French Emperor, and is going to have to fall back, but a lot, I think, of capability that could end up over there. Fire Giant kind of pressing on the edges of my mind right now, Mifflin. I mean, 20 minutes in with the lead they have, the Ferrymen 1 pick. That's all they need to scoop that up. Pyromancer, at the minimum, can help push them a little bit further forward. They're sitting around 5,000 gold, could make it a pretty quick, swift 6K if they can pick this one up for themselves. And it doesn't seem like they're going to have a lot of opposition. There is still some, and over the wall, it is going to be the Aaru Scorpions that steal that one away and get things a little bit closer to their favor.
Yeah, no vision on that side of the wall. So the Aaru Scorpions very simply send Picarino over with a Primordial Onslaught. For the first time, Davey does not ult to join the fight, and instead sticks around in lane, has closed up some of that XP again, was 16 last time we checked in with him, now 18, and is able to narrowly avoid that ultimate from Azriel. Nice play from the Cherno Bog, takes out a tier 1 tower, and takes a little bit of damage towards that tier 2. So the Aaru Scorpion showing signs of life, but the Styx Ferryman lead is still massive. It's just a Pyromancer. We already called that the consolation prize when compared to other objectives. I don't want to see the Styx Ferrymen slow it down now. I don't want to see them get discouraged by that play. Instead, maintain your pressure. Realize that you are still in a position to take these team fights with relative ease. Move on towards the Fire Giant, force the fight again, but this time, maybe a little bit more wards.
A little bit more wards, right? Get the vision and see what you can do with it. I thought earlier, by the way, I was trying to double check. So when I think, Styx Ferryman makes sense. So first off, name of the Ferryman, Chiron. Charon.
Yeah,
That's where Charon's coin comes
I was about to come after
Chiron's the trainer.
Yeah, he's
trains
the horse
a lot
guy.
and he trains a lot of heroes, as it turns out in
Wait.
mythology.
It wasn't Chiron that trained Hercules, was it?
I think, well, I mean, it depends. Like in the Disney movie, no, but I think in
Okay.
like actual mythology, I want to say yes.
He definitely trained
I'd have to double check.
Achilles? You know, the
You know
famous
what?
trainer? I don't
We're
know
gonna have to
who
go.
he trains.
Yeah. Show me your resume,
Yeah,
man.
this guy's a fraud.
I need to know who is on this. There's probably a good chunk of them, and maybe both. Honestly, could be Achilles and Hercules.
Or maybe Heracles?
Well, it would have been because Greek mythology, right? Because
Yeah, Hercules
was
is
Greek,
Roman.
and Hercules is the Roman version.
Yep.
Either way, I thought you were making like a little bit of a pun because it's the Styx Ferrymen. They've got burn, and in my mind, it's a river of like fire.
Well, no, it's a river of souls.
But yeah, then I remembered that it's not, like, I imagine it as just red, but that's just me, apparently, like, as it turns out. I was trying to look it up to see if that was, like, any sort of backing. No, but if you bathe in it, could make you invulnerable. So at least there's that going for you. Speaking of invulnerable, right now that's how the Ferrymen are feeling, at least to a certain extent. 4K gold lead. They take down the tier 1 in mid, and of course with all the other neutral objectives that have gone their favor, at this point it's only the Fire Giant left standing, 23 into the game. And it's this weird, like, middle ground. You can't just start it because there's too much chance that the Scorpions could just walk in and ruin your day. But you also don't have a lot of else that you can do on the map at this point. I guess, luckily for them, Primal Fury is going to be up in about 10 seconds, so they will have something else to fight over.
And it'll make the Fire Giant that much easier to grab. Additional percentage damage taken, and less taken for them. So if you guys at home were wondering what production does for us as casters, well, they let us know who exactly Chiron trained.
Yeah.
Many Greek heroes, including Heracles, Achilles, Jason, and Asclepius, were instructed by
And
him.
I'm assuming that's, like, famous Jason of Jason and the Argonauts.
There's a
like
Jason in there? Oh, yeah, I skipped that one.
You literally said Jason. That's
Oh,
why I knew to
I
look
said
at it.
it.
You said Jason.
Understood.
It came out of your mouth.
Yeah. What I didn't know...
I had an uncle named Jason.
I didn't realize Asclepius was like a dude. I know it's like an item in Smite, but he like did stuff.
I thought Asclepius was just the name. Anyway, either way, aggression is going to happen over here around the Primal Fury. Ugly One takes so much damage and gets forced out on the Cthulhu Fringe. Emperor's low, but Gunter misses the shot, finds the second one, and kills off the jungler. So far, 1 for none, and they're going to keep the chase going. Davey is the target for Okeanos, and he's got Azrael right next to him. They're chasing down the carry, and there's nowhere that Chernobog can go and feel safe. 2-0 now in favor of the Ferrymen.
And the fight may have started around the Primal Fury, but as all fights at the 24-minute mark that start around the Primal Fury, they aren't about it. They're about the Fire Giant, and with 2 clean picks, 40 seconds left on Davies' respawn, and half a minute left on the French Emperor. Did he just jump? He's dead.
Well, hey, and you know what? You nailed that. 2 for 2. He did just jump, and he's dead.
What? Why you jumping on blue buff, my guy? Just impatient? Could have used your other abilities. Picarino gonna spend the next 50 seconds in the grayscale asking the same question I did. Why'd you jump? And, well, Fire Giant will go over to the Styx Ferryman. Calvin, you might be a little too far up. Not the case this time. Streak up and Gunter a little further away, so Calvin will survive with his life. Tier 2 tower in mid, I don't think we could say the same about it.
That's going to get aggressed on. Okeanos kind of leading the way. They've got a full minion wave walking in with them as well. So while taking the tower, if it hadn't been for Ugly One's intervention, maybe they would have had a little more pressure around that Phoenix. Instead, it's kind of a split up, you know, not a full 5-man grouping from anybody on the Ferrymen. It doesn't seem like they're sure where they want to go. Ice taking a lot of damage, has to go into the wall here.
I think he's all right.
Yeah, should be able to get out of there, no problem. The team falls back. Primal Fury didn't go down in that fight earlier after those kills. And now it will be secured by the Ferrymen. Push their lead even further, Mifflin. We're going over 10K in their favor with these objectives.
Careful.
Just have to make sure you get out of here if you're Ice. There's the leap in. Friendship finds the dash. There's the ult. And there's the shell to try and take up some of that. Davey joins the fray.
They can't
and
see
between
him.
all of this, they have to be able to find it. There's the shot. And they do kill off Ice, so at least get rid of one of those FG buffs.
Yeah, great shots from Davey there. That flickering vision is connected with both, so Davey had no vision on Ice, was just predicting the pathing, and, well, I suppose has the damage numbers when he lands those auto attacks. So 1 Fire Giant lost now to the Styx Ferrymen. What can the Aaru Scorpions do with this opportunity? 5 versus 4 for 40 seconds, and it seems like B. Azrael is willing to give them that fight.
Yeah, they're going to continue going. A good jump forward from Azrael. Gets a stun Ugly One now and Descent to Madness. Looking to turn this around. Doesn't feel like the grouping Azrael needs to stay alive through this one. That's a good pickup for the Scorpions. And immediately things get a little more interesting now. It's going to be swings in their favor. 2 Fire Giant buffs eliminated, and it's a 3v4. They're going to continue getting aggressive. Emperor goes down. That is just because they were too focused elsewhere. Okeanos is going to get rooted, pluck onto Gunter, but there's the flicker. Ugly One trying to take down. The damage from Streak Up is just too much to handle, and just like that, The solo laner gets eliminated, and now surging forward, it's
Stop
Gunter,
him.
it's Streak Up, it's Okeanos, and they're looking for more Picorino. If you get stunned out, there's nowhere you can go. Trying to find the cutoff path, Streak Up looking for the aggression. It seems like Mifflin, they're going to let that one slip through because they have bigger fish to fry.
You sure about that?
Maybe
'Cause,
not.
Yeah, Ice on the way.
He respawned.
Yeah, he's going to find him pretty easily now. Over the wall goes Picorino. Knock up, no good. Okeanos still there, by the way. Good CC immunity, buys him just a moment. But here's the thing about how Ice is incredibly fast. Junglers have speed buff, and that gives you a lot more movement speed than literally everybody else. Meanwhile, the rest of the team making strides on the map. Mid Phoenix falls down, 3 stacked there, can start to work their way over towards the left, and they still have 50 seconds left on Picorino's respawn. Only 50 seconds left as well on that Fire Giant power play. Crazy how these things line up. The Styx Ferrymen, they're walking up to the bird.
They're at least getting mid, and, well, let's look at it. They're getting left. No problem. Fire Giant going to disappear in about 40 seconds. And now Mifflin. Well, it's that awkward period of time. You've got the lead. You don't have the kills to back you up right now. So 2 sets of Fire Minion waves will give them an advantage. We're going to be playing for about a minute and a half from now. FG is going to be the next target.
I'm going to pull from one of the many illustrious casters that have had the privilege to walk through the doors here at hi-rez. Once upon a time, there was a caster here named Tiger, and she had to say, when the game devolved into the state that we are currently approaching, we're getting into bare bones smite. You might be wondering, what does that mean? It's evocative, but I don't know what I'm thinking. I don't know how it's making me feel. Bare bones smite, if I am understanding this correctly, and you know, I'm no philosopher, I'm no anyology, any sort of study.
I would consider you like slight philosopher, like you err towards philosophy.
Yeah, what's the word for the fake philosophers? Philosophs? Those that chose to pretend to be philosophers back in the day? Whatever. I'm sure production will help me out with that. Anyway, don't love what I heard in my ears. You can't even repeat it, Gore. You're not even allowed to laugh.
No.
So anyway.
That's the last thing I expected.
So here's the thing about Bare Bones Smite. It's when you're just farming. It's when there's nothing left on the map to do and the game state becomes so simple that you are only given one line forward. So what's the line here for the Aaru Scorpions? It's push out some waves and buy themselves some time, try and find some farm. What's the line for the Styx Ferrymen? Wait for this Fire Giant to plummet on back down towards the earth. I'm being informed that I am a charlatan or a sophist. That's, I think, what I was going for was sophist. Bare Bones Smite about to end, though. Fire Giant coming back down.
Yeah, should be pretty easy to secure. I'm going to be surprised
I'm not a charlatan.
if we see the Scorpions step up to this one. Or at least in what capacity they do. French Emperor, Ugly One, and Calvin on this side of the map. Everybody else, they're gone. So if you're going to steal this, you're stealing it in a fancy, fashioned way. Davy's going to be going for the split push.
What did you say?
Looks like I said fancy fashion.
That's how you steal the objective?
Yeah, you got it. Well, when you don't have any of your damage dealers,
I suppose so.
it's got to be fancy, right? You got to go in, put a twist to it. It doesn't happen this time, Mifflin. Surprise, surprise.
Unlucky.
And they instead have to back off. Now, here's where defenses come through. And this is where the question comes in. You've got 15,000 gold in your favor if you're the Ferryman. 2 sets of Fire Minions in your favor if you're the Ferryman. And a lot of fights that have been going your way. 8 kills in favor of you over what the Scorpions have been able to pick up.
16,000 gold.
Your mids, 7-1. Your carries, 3-0-8.
All your relics are up.
So where are the Scorpions looking to create chaos?
See, and this is the issue that I had, you know, kind of concerned myself with in P's and B's with the composition the Aaru Scorpions have taken for themselves. They've got great pick potential between Sobek, between the Surcat, and even Chernobog with his ability to get involved anywhere on the map. But in the true 5-on-5 engagement, despite having a Cthulhu available to them, I don't think their team fight is very consistent. They don't have the greatest beads burning potential in these scenarios, and Cthulhu has proven time and time again so far that he is incredibly squishy 32 minutes into this game. So where do they look? I suppose it's got to be an all-in dive. Keep your eyes on French Emperor and whether or not he can close gap onto either Gunter or Streak Up. It's a hard ask, but he might be the only one that can do it.
Well, as it turns out, it is not around the right side Phoenix. That got burned impossibly fast, it feels like. Mid respawns. I have a sneaking suspicion it's not going to live too long either. If the Ferrymen decide that they want to try and knock that one down, left Phoenix will respawn relatively soon as well. So if they act, they got to act now. Fire Minions going to be joining them as they walk into the Phoenix. it's going to get eliminated pretty quickly. And the Scorpions got to figure something out, and they got to figure it out quickly here as the aggression from the Ferrymen, well, no, slows down a little bit at the base. They should back up, clear out the left side Phoenix, and then maybe reaggress.
Not much here. Streak puts himself very far out of position. Here's the dive.
Yeah, it's going to be getting a lot of damage
Shell.
on the Streak Up, and they do get the kill. Azrael's low. Azrael leaps away, and so far the disengage has been great. But do they have enough from just Gunter at this point, Ice Ice, to try and, well, balance things out? Look at that Titan. It's taking about half its health, so they have to worry about the minions. Damage from Ice Ice is good. The damage back on the Ice Ice is just as well. Phoenix on the left side seems to be the target, and they want to be able to get this at least without walking away. Otherwise, it might consider a large win for the Scorpions in terms of how much they've slowed down, but it's Azrael who's just walking to the Titan room. In fact, he doesn't care about the rest of the fight, and they're going to go for a little bit more damage. Do they have enough on their own? Yeah, just like that. The solo laner gets it done and wins the game for the team.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be Ice Ice that went in there, but instead he decided to go get involved in the team fight. Like one ultimate from cleanup probably finishes off the Titan from that HP, but instead be Azrael, who has shown multiple times throughout that game that he has not got a single care in his body, ran out a long time ago, out of stock, waiting for the supplier. There's been a lot of supply shortages because of current global affairs. So still no cares to give for Azrael. Walks into the Titan all on his own and just does it. Period with a T.
Yeah, it really does work about that simply, right? It's just like, hey, I gotta win the game. Cool. What if I just like did that? Luckily, a lot of help. The minions kind of whittling the Titan one down there. Just a massive lead for the Ferrymen. Well played from them from minute one to what do you say after that?
Minute done.
That's right. And they managed to find themselves a win here in game one. We'll see if they can find the 2-0 though right after this.
Tend the garden with me. We have so many seeds to sow. When the harvest comes in, it will be time to share what we have grown. We were having the time of our lives when we started. Everything was groovy, but I'm noticing lately we've been half-hearted. West Side Story don't feel pretty anymore. Well, we spent the bulk of our days feeling free, like we were properly stoned. Till you liked everything but the likes of me, I can't help but recall. Time of our lives when we started. Everything was groovy, but I'm noticing lately we've been half-hearted. West Side Story don't feel pretty. West Side Story don't feel pretty anymore. Time of our lives when we started. Everything was groovy, but I'm noticing lately we've been half-hearted. West Side Story don't feel pretty anymore. We were having the time of our lives when we started. Everything was groovy, but I'm noticing lately we've been half-hearted. West Side Story don't feel pretty. West Side Story don't feel pretty. West Side Story don't feel pretty. West Side Story don't feel pretty anymore.
0 here for the Ferrymen over the Scorpions. Mifflin, that one starts out a little bit of back and forth, right? A couple of kills, first blood going to the Ferrymen over there in duo lane.
Yeah, real little.
And they had some some pressure that is going there. The Scorpions get a couple of kills back in their favor, notably more the other side of the map. I think a little bit of pressure in duo lane, but not too much going for them. And then it slowed down dramatically for the Scorpions and pretty much just kept on that same pace for the Ferrymen.
Yeah, the Styx Ferrymen were able to slowly and systemically create a system in which they were just continually to dominate. Stop me if you've heard or lived in one of those before. Anyway, that was a clean game for the Styx Ferrymen where they get every single objective. Gold begets gold, and that's exactly what happens here. The Aaru Scorpions composition, I think, was the main weakness of this match. They had certain portions of the game where each individual piece could work out, namely the Circuit. She was the only bit of fight back that you were alluding to earlier. A couple of kills go over to the French Emperor, but after that, the pick-based composition starts to slowly fall apart as the Styx Ferrymen get to the portion of the game where it's no longer about picks, it's about the team fight. Small misplays here and there. Picarino, again, had beads in that scenario, did not choose to use them, and instead went back to base with them for the next fight, where he also didn't use them and died. And then objective team fights all go to the Styx Ferrymen. These are the hardest types of games to break down because legitimately, just about nothing goes right for the Scorpions.
Yeah, they try throughout a majority of that game. Like you said, there's a lot of opportunities that maybe just unfortunately don't unfold the way they would like them to. One of them was pretty much, I think they got a good fight over there in right, and then immediately afterward, the Ferrymen got the Pyromancer anyway. And so it was like, well, you did your best, right, in that moment. And then unfortunately,
One
most of the
objective
other
steal.
team fights,
One
they were able
pyro
to come
steal.
through. They did get a Pyro steal. And so they show signs of life here. We'll see whether or not they can play upset. Again, this is their last opportunity for this Phase 1 to be able to do something like that. It has been, unfortunately for them now, 9 games, 9 losses on the side of the Scorpions. So we'll see whether or not they can push themselves forward and at least find a map win here, maybe even a set win if they can find it. But first they have to get through the Ferrymen in game number 2, Mifflin. And that's going to be where the challenge arises for them here in the Challenger Circuit.
You looked at me with so much joy in your eyes with that.
I was proud of it.
Yeah, I was
That was
not.
a fun little loop
I
around.
was not quite ready for it. I've not once seen the childlike innocence and just humors in your face like that. That's awesome, man.
You haven't?
No,
Like,
okay, well-
legitimately. We've worked together for a while now.
Yeah,
It feels
and that's
like it's
the
probably
happiest
been there.
you've ever been.
Yeah? Right there.
That's right.
That's because maybe that's getting too personal. I was on medicine for 2 weeks. That was literally making me depressed.
Okay.
So that was fun. Instead, now we're here and we get to have fun again. And it's going to be, once again, the Ferrymen as your first pick. It's the Bacchus, the Daji getting banned out. Hey, guess what? The other side, the Atlas and the Umoja. Except last time, it was Atlas then Umoja. This time, it's Umoja then Atlas. They just swapped the two. Otherwise, everything stays the same so far.
Massive adaptations from the Aaru Scorpions in their pick order, though. Ban order, I should say. Jormungandr going to round out the third ban for the Styx Ferrymen.
Hey,
And then
I
again,
remember you being a huge fan of that last time.
you know what? I actually just brought up, Twig's stance. I would never once take a definitive stance on something myself because, why would I? Jormungandr's not very good. He's bad. Doesn't do a whole lot. Doesn't have flex potential, which is a mainstay for the majority of solo lane selections. Doesn't really have a whole lot of disruption. His CC is unreliable at best. One thing Jormungandr does better than just about everybody else, though.
Becomes a giant snake. Nobody else in the game does it the same way.
Ao Kuang.
Ao
you
Kuang
even
doesn't
know who
become a
you're
giant
fighting?
snake.
What is he?
Rides a dragon.
No, when he... What? He is the dragon.
No, he's on top. Isn't he on top? I'm pretty.
No,
well,
he's
maybe
the
that's just some
Dragon King
skins.
of the Eastern
There are
Seas,
some,
man.
Okay, but there's definitely a skin where he rides the dragon.
You're
No,
talking
it's
about
the
the- it's-
sandworm.
You're talking about the Dragon Rider skin.
Probably.
It's literally called
Yeah.
Dragon Rider.
Who plays base skin, Ao Kuang? Come on.
Yeah, or any of the other skins that aren't Dragon Rider.
Or, well, I don't know. There's the one where he rides the giant sandworm, right?
So Ao Kuang and Jormungandr are both really good at turning into giant lizards.
But hold on.
Okay.
Go forth, my
Jormungandr's
children,
giant
and take
version
over
is
this
bigger
land.
than Ao Kuang's dinky dragon form.
I've been informed by production that I am incorrect in calling it the Dragon Rider skin. It's actually called Dragon Knight. Boo production. You're a nerd.
Yay, gore.
Jormungandr is really good at surviving.
Well, he's
is the point
banned.
I wanted to make.
Yeah, and you know what?
Feel my
He's not going to
blessing.
survive anything because he got banned out. He's not even in the game. Bologna, Jing Wei picked up here by the Scorpion, so at least a little bit of a shift away from what the Ferrymen had last time. But it is a Heimdall first pick. This time they take away the Tiamat and they get themselves the Terra one more time. Ganesh locked in for the top 3 on both squads, and we find ourselves in what feels like a very passive duo lane from the Scorpions this time around.
Yeah, not a whole lot of fight potential, but if they do decide to take a fight with the DR changes, it's actually very good CC lockdown for the Aaru Scorpions. Ganesh remove obstacles immediately into the first ability from Jingwei. Great setup, the silence immediately afterward. Not a whole lot of DRable CC on that side of the map. So once they take over to level 5, the Aaru Scorpions that is, there is an opportunity for them to look for these engagements. That said, some interesting matchups, like Heimdall is immune to knockups when channeling Gallarhorn, Terra immune to knockups when she's channeling literally any of her abilities, so could be difficult for the Jingwei to get active without the assistance of Ganesh. That silence, I think, going to be very important for the 1v1 or the 2v2s in the lane. And then if one lane does start to fall behind, if one of these guys, ADCs, starts to fall behind, they're both playing essentially the most passive hunters in the game, and that Heimdall, if he needs to, can just sit in his tower, throw out abilities from max range, use the Bifrost to play very safely. Jingwei, the only hunter in the game that's essentially allowed to back on every single wave and then still get to every single wave thanks to her passive. So, maybe not the most volatile dual lane, but certainly some kill potential.
We'll have to watch if the Scorpion can make it work. Bans catch up at least. Nemesis Persephone by the Ferrymen. The other side, Osiris, cool, pass ban, ends up showing up here for the Scorpions. Not something I expected to see. They finalize their roster with the Artio and the Agni. The other side, we get a Cthulhu. And it looks like, Mifflin, we're going to get the Chungle out of the chalk here. Ice more than likely picking that one up and running around. And for a while there, this one was not doing too hot. It was getting picked up a ton, but his stats didn't necessarily back up the fact that he was getting picked up a ton. We'll see if Ice can do it. A big, big win for them if they can get this into 0. And I think it's worth mentioning, if it's a 2-1, if the Scorpions can, A, find their first game of the phase, but B, stall the Ferrymen out, just a 1 win, would probably tie, or would tie, plus minus, would then send it to like head-to-head, things like that.
Might get a tiebreaker today.
Well, no, because head-to-head, they've played each other once, and the Gladiators beat the Ferrymen. So
might not get a tiebreaker.
I think is what would happen there. As long as we follow that route, we'll see, I guess, how this game goes, because that's all hypothetical. A lot of it depends on whether or not the Scorpions can win this game as we kick off number 2 here. How do you feel about Chalk Jungle? I feel like it bounces back and forth.
Chalk Jungle, I think, is interesting in that he's a high-pressure jungler, but if I'm thinking of high-pressure junglers, like why am I taking Chalk over Shiva, or why am I taking Chalk over Gilgamesh, or why am I taking Chalk over even Erlong Shen? Like, over Erlong Shen now because he's comp banned, as he has gotten that minor rework. But there are other junglers that I think do exactly what you want from Chalk, potentially just better. Gilgamesh, namely, I think the primary god that I would consider in that role. But what does Chalk bring to this composition for the Styx Ferrymen? It's already a teamfight heavy-based composition between the Terra ultimate, Shriekup's presence with Gallarhorn to always proc Terra ultimate, be Azrael on this Cthulhu to set into madness in these late-game teamfights just so disruptive. Ice similarly, blink forward, go immediately into that Thunder Crash, and well, it's pretty good from there. So I think it fits the draft, but maybe some other picks could have been a little bit better.
Okeanos, just a couple of bolts away from dead, but we'll be able to get out of there. Following up on that conversation, though, kind of mentioning OAU did. I didn't see what it was just for EU SCC, but total, 24% win rate across NA and EU in the SCC for the Chalk.
Chalk total or Chalk jungle?
Chalk total, because I don't have anything to limit in my spreadsheet down to just jungle. Although I think we've seen him mostly in jungle. So we'll just kind of say jungle and blanket same in that. And poor solo laners. Maybe all the wins were solo lane wins and every jungle game has been a loss. I guess we'd have to go back and watch. And that's where you can go to SMITE VOD on YouTube and watch all past games and figure things out like that if you're really, really curious about it. Otherwise, right now, he's a little aggressive and he's getting chased down. Did not even occur to me, Mifflin, that there was a Bologna on a team with an Artio. And to look to the other side, who cares about Chalk Jungle? We've talked about Chalk Jungle before. Bologna Jungle, I'm not sure I've ever seen outside of casuals, if I'm going to be open and honest with you.
And generally when I do see it in my ranked and casual games, it's matched up with a Mannequins, just because she's got such great ability to lock down in the early with Shield Bash, that's slow, essentially guaranteeing you at minimum 2, maybe 3 auto attacks. But instead, it's Eye of the Jungle in the first slot for this Bologna, and immediately down that Katana tree. maybe like a hastened katana, maybe a golden blade to help out with the clear. Either way, though, just not the greatest gank potential until 5.
Well, in lane, I thought it was going to be maybe a little more passive from Calvin and Davey. Instead, they've been keeping Okeanos on the ropes for a majority of this one. So control still bouncing back and forth between these two. Okeanos should be able to heal up. We mentioned this last time, early game. Okeanos, the Terra, streak up as well, had taken a lot of damage, but you got a Terra in lane with you, so theoretically the healing should be there. And the other one's trying to lead the way. And now, Mifflin, you know what? We're only 3.5 into this, but I do want to ask you your question. Like, where do you think First Blood would happen in this game?
That's so early.
Both as like a fun thing, but also like just like as a thought experiment. How do you envision it? Maybe. No, we won't have to hold that thought. Ice is kind of playing patiently over here near the purple buff.
0%er.
So where do you see it? Like, and this is, you can play it as a game, or you can just shoot straight.
Right here, right now.
Maybe
it's happening.
It's gonna happen
Calvin.
right here. Calvin is walking. He's stunned. He's damaged, and he is dead. Ice gets him right before he can make it around the corner. 4 minutes in. And it's because Ice has a successful gank in the jungle.
No, I think it's more so that Calvin decided to use his dash aggressively, not realizing that Ice was there. Unfortunate timing for the Ganesh, and fortunate patience from Ice to hover that side of the map for so long. Luckily, they stalled that gank so long, I didn't have to embarrass myself, because if I were to guess, I probably was going to guess Picarino in mid, just because Ice has got a pretty decent matchup there once the dash has been expended. But similarly, has a good matchup at Ganesh once he no longer has the dash, and especially considering he had not ticked over the level 5 just yet.
Theme. If the dash is gone, Shock's got a good matchup.
Yeah, dude, that slow on the third ability, just the most annoying thing on the planet.
Well, we might get to see it again.
Surely
Calvin
not.
tries to save the purple,
Oh, he
sent
might be
through
dead.
the realms. Oh no,
Silence?
welcome back to lane. The sword missed
Dash
time,
into
so the
wall?
damage isn't going to be too great. There's going to be the ult though from Ice. They have the silence, and there's the spin to win. To pick that one up, Ice gets 2 kills, and they're both on the support back to back.
He just dashed into the wall, man. Maybe he was worried about a pre-channeled silence from Ice. Like, that's my concern, right? You're off in Niflheim, and you're like, oh god, what am I going to land into? Probably a Chalk ultimate. Maybe if I could just dash quick enough, I'll be able to avoid it. Chalk ultimate was not being channeled, unfortunately. No. He dashes straight into a wall and immediately loses his life right afterward. 2 quick fells there for the Styx Ferrymen. 2-0 now. And the duo lane gets off to the exact same start that we saw in Game 1. A massive lead. Over 1 level in at least both roles. Maybe streak up closer to a half level here. That is not what you want to see if you're a Calvin fan. At least silver linings. Heavenly's going to be back up pretty shortly, so maybe he doesn't die again.
Well, we'll see. Ice did expend their ult. Well, right now the blink is being kept in combat, so it doesn't have that available to them immediately. French Emperor has like maybe half a level, maybe not even a full
It's a good
half
steal.
level up over them. And so that is something else to look at. While Ice was over here killing people, the French Emperor was busy farming up on the other side of the map. So it has gone slightly in favor. Bologna, still not entirely sure what to expect out of him. Golden Blade has been the option for that first item. So we got to see that a lot more often last week in the SBL, being scooped up, good attack speed, good movement speed, good little bit of power, and realistically, like, I'm not looking at Bologna as someone who needs clear, so it feels like the stats are maybe a little bit more heavy here than just specifically the passive.
Yeah, Golden Blade, one of the few katanas to evade the movement speed massive nerf that we saw, I believe, at the beginning of Season 9, maybe tail end of Season 8, where all the katanas used to have 10%, have been nerfed down to about 7. Golden Blade avoids that, so it maintains 10% movement speed on it, 35 power, pretty decent stat line, and if you are deciding to match anything besides bludgeon, great clear.
This is going to be a good test for them if they join this fight. Okeanos is dancing around. Okeanos is low, but still alive. The walls not going to be able to find the stun, but it's 1-for-1 Calvin for Okeanos. The EV's low. It doesn't seem like Streak Up's going to be able to close the gap there thanks to Ugly One's rotation. Ice is getting chased out as well. And this could be a big turnaround. The Scorpions can find it. The blink from 1 is going to be better. The ult from Streak Up's going to get them out of there. And then Ice takes the axe option, goes backwards, takes a ton of damage from the Jingwei. Does not have that heal just yet. Runs through the red buff, has some body blocks. Healing's there. It's just a matter of time, though. And an opt like that, when they're back in the enemy jungle, it's another kill for the Scorpions and a good one onto Ice.
Yeah, I believe Ice just trying to avoid the stun from Picarino, was not expecting that Davey was still so close to that tossed out axe, loses his life for his efforts, but it does at least distract the Aaru Scorpions for a good deal of time. Had he continued to retreat the way he was going and still likely would have fallen, could have been a red buff invade, could have been immediately been a purple buff invade as well, so he at least pulls the attention of the Aaru Scorpions away from the Styx Ferrymen side of the jungle. So mitigated losses and doesn't fall too far behind for it, because French Emperor was another one of those targets trying to finish off that kill, trying to chase out now only one level gap, favoring that Bellona, who has decided to go down a Katana in the second slot. Stone Cutting Sword, certainly an option. Hasten Katana, certainly an option. I feel like Bellona probably benefits more so from slows, so Frostbound over Hasten if I had to choose. Serrated out there too.
Aggression in the mid lane. Okeanos low. Okeanos is not going to get pursued any longer. Kind of the difference between the Serket and this Bellona, right? Is just like, well, the kill potential disappeared pretty quickly, and you have to fall back, maybe not get as much done as you would have otherwise. Ice forced to take some interesting pathing there. Not going to get isolated, though, so escapes away from the Aaru Scorpions. They've been a little more aggressive, Mifflin. I like that the Scorpions are trying to control their fate right now.
They are. The gold lead is reflecting that higher level of proactivity as well. In game one, by this point, we're talking about a nearly 2,000 gold lead. Now, 9 minutes in, closer to about half 1,000 separating these squads. Experience largely equalized as well. Sure, there are some gaps here and there, but they're answered elsewhere. Support lead for the Styx Ferrymen, jungle lead for the Aaru Scorpions. French Emperor now 2 levels up on Ice, but only 100 or so total experience separating these two squads as of now. But again, something I had brought up during P's and B's, and I think is still true. Once the Styx Ferrymen are allowed to group up as 5, once they are this 5-man roaming death ball in these elongated team fights around objectives, that's where their draft is going to hit its fruition. That's where their draft is going to be at its strongest. Whereas the Aaru Scorpions are not necessarily weak in a late-game team fight. I'd argue they've similarly got a team fight-based composition. I think they may just get outscaled.
Ice is in a little bit of trouble. Make that a lot of bit of trouble. He's dead over there in the Gold Fury pit. Just a clean kill. French Emperor credit for that one. Kills now tied 3-3. And like you had said, the gold lead pretty much doesn't even exist. Might start to favor the Scorpions. No, French Emperor sent through the realms.
Squishy.
He's going to come crashing down. You've got Okeanos for stuns. Great Eagles rally. Gets him over the wall. The root's there. But no follow-up from Streak Up means this is all Okeanos, and it doesn't seem like they think they have the damage to try and chase that one down.
Yeah, poor timing on the stun from Okeanos there means the French Emperor is able to work his way out with relative ease. That said, Streak Up has now learned just how squishy that Bellona is. Dash forward from Davey. Does not realize the Bifrost is so far away. Not a whole lot of kill potential there for the Jingwei. And that's exactly what I'm talking about. If Streak Up falls behind, he could do exactly that. Just play incredibly safe in the lane. And the same can be said of Davey on the other end.
Calvin eats a little bit of poke in mid. Not a lot going on here, Mifflin, at least for the enticing purposes. They've managed to keep things even, which is a big win for the Scorpions. And so we can start looking towards the differences between these two. Streak Up has gone into straight up a Blood Forge. It's a relatively expensive first item to go into.
It's like $27.50, I think.
But has opted into that. Typically, we've been seeing the Devo's Gauntlets that we are seeing on the other side from Davey. Is that just I had the gold so I can get it, or is Streak Up maybe looking for some blood?
Yeah, I feel like Blood Forge might outscale Devo's in performance, but it is generally a gold question. Like, if you have enough to build it that early on, considering how quickly the Styx Ferrymen started their laning phase over in the duo lane, maybe he just did have enough on first back and immediately wanted to benefit from that large infusion of power. I'm not mad about it. Yeah, that's
not
why.
Mad. Yeah, this might showcase it. No, Streak Up's dead no matter what. Unfortunately, not able to get a kill to get that shield. Other side of the map, though, so much pressure onto one means Ugly One's in trouble. But this is a classic Smite play. Ugly One may go down here, may still at least distract for a while. I am flabbergasted by how long this RDO is lasting. And yeah, they'll get the kill. But if it's a 1-for-1 trade, you got to favor the team that gets the Gold Fury, and the Scorpions, tail as old as time, pick that one up, get themselves a slight gold lead up over the Ferrymen.
More important is that experience advantage, I think, now closer to 1,300 favoring the Chaos team. Talk about age-old trades, though. Gold Fury goes to one team, Pyromancer generally answered by the other. Picarino considers trying to steal like we saw in Game 1, but is not quite able to close that gap with the Azriel right in his face. So Pyromancer will go a long ways to keep this game incredibly interesting. 12 minutes in, 13 rather, 4-4 in the kill department. Gold essentially dead even. An experience getting close to that point as well. Maybe the only separation so far this game. The Aaru Scorpions still have got the opportunity to try and leverage their leads, especially around mid. Picarino has just hit a pretty significant power spike with the Divine Ruin pickup, has a level lead over Gunter on this Agni. The junglers have been fighting non-stop, both of them, but French Emperor getting the better end of it, 1-0-1 as opposed to the 3-2-1 of Ice and a 1-level lead there as well. Stone Cutting Sword, Golden Blade, maybe not the most survivable build, but you've got plenty of movement speed, 17% additional just inside the build, and now going down that tower, Shield Tree will get a little bit more survivability for themselves as well. This Bologna, keep your eyes on French Emperor. He might have something to show us.
And we'll see, it's a little bit of aggression in mid, a little bit of aggression in duo. Ice is going to be going onto the Jingwei. Davey ults away. And he's going to create a little bit of distance. Axe throws out, doesn't connect. And it seems like Ice is just going to go ahead and let that one be called. Will the Scorpions say the same? French Emperor seems to have trouble deciding where they want to go. Okeanos in the jungle is the option.
Might just be dead.
From the Terras there. The lockdown doesn't seem to be enough. No, there it is. French Emperor, credit for the kill. But now it's an explosive fight. The Ferrymen come back. They've got Azriel, and Azriel has descended into madness, trying to separate the team, getting a decent chunk of damage onto Davey. Gunter goes forward, streak up, uses the Bifrost and gets out of there. There's not going to be any more kills than the first. Terra goes down. And the Scorpions stay alive.
Nearly.
Or maybe I spoke too soon. Streak up so low, you just need the hits. The knockback is good. The team is there. French Emperor's diving the tower, and that is gonna get punished hard. Gunter, credit for the kill, and streak up still stands.
Yeah, Streak Up may have lived with 10 HP, but that's 9 more than he needed. Picarino and Davey now on the retreat. Gunter and Ice incredibly healthy. You can move into the enemy jungle here. Purple buff invade. That's the easy answer. Can they try and chase out for some more kills? Gunter seems to think yes.
They're chasing him down. There's going to be a slow, but they don't have the gap closer to get onto Picarino. So they're going to let that one, well, maybe not let. They have to let that one fall to the wayside. As Picarino makes it onto the tier 2. Looks like they want to get a little more aggressive, but where on the map? Mifflin, neutral objectives. Only FG's up right now. The gold lead pretty much equal. So a tower would not only give you a relative map state advantage, but realistically, maybe bump a little more gold into your pockets to feel like you have something in your favor.
Speaking of the gold, the Styx Ferrymen have re-established gold lead as well as experience lead off the back end of that team fight. Not enough for me to even really feel all that confident about bringing up. Less than 500.
Yeah.
Separating these two squads. This is a dead even match. 16 minutes in. Kills remain even. Every single time the Aaru Scorpions are able to strike, it is immediately answered by the Styx Ferrymen, and the vice versa is true as well. You asked me where you think the next team fight's going to be. I think we're in bare bones Smite territory. Again, quoting Tiger, where we wait for these neutral objectives to respawn. Primal Fury about 1 minute away from coming back down towards the battleground of the gods, and I think that's where both teams can start to put their attention. And then you got to evaluate which one of them has the advantage on the objective. As far as burn is concerned, you might favor the team that has the Ganesh on it, just thanks to that Dharmic Pillars being such a consistent damage-dealing tool, as well as multiple auto-attackers, Davey and French Emperor together, going to just shred objectives. So which team's got the better secure? Yeah, that's also the Aaru Scorpions. They've got an Agni, which might just be the hardest hitting couple of abilities on the map, especially with the most recent changes to Noxious Fumes, having additional explosion damage, making either your ultimate or Flame Wave a more consistent confirmed tool, whereas the hardest hitting ability for the Styx Ferrymen is probably Gunter's second ability in the bipedal stance, which is pretty short range, all things considered. Doesn't really match up to that same damage as a Rain Fire. So the Styx Ferrymen, I think, will probably show up to the objective first. They've been the aggressor more often than not, but they will not leave it up to a coin toss. They want the team fight first.
Well, we might see a team fight break out. Primal Furies respawn and gives them something to fight over here. Azriel has to dash away, takes a little bit of poke. Ice does not have that ult available right now. So it might be risky for the Ferrymen to go forward, and it seems like they're going to, well, at least still maintain control of the Gold Fury pit, but maybe not do too much else, even with some good stuns. Mifflin, I'm going to be honest, I'm surprised. I didn't think you were watching Smite when Tiger was casting.
No, I actually had somebody, I was talking to people recently about like cool quotes.
Oh,
yeah.
My favorite Tiger quote was Band-Aid over a bullet hole.
That's awesome.
That's a really good one.
What season was Tiger casting?
I want to say season 2, season 3.
I was playing.
Yeah, because I remember them casting SCL, or casting some of the console games. That's why I was surprised, because I was like, "No, you were watching Smite back then? That's amazing."
I was gaming it.
That was back when, like, probably right around the time. It must have been season 3-ish then, because I was also doing Challenger Circuit, or I did like the year afterward. Yeah, it's been a while. That was like we were still doing like tier monster tournaments. There was a lot that was going on that now I'm saying it out loud. I feel like a really old Smite player. And it's because I am, as it turns out. So it's not just a feeling. Either way, balanced in terms of kills, not quite so much in terms of gold, although at this point, approaching 20 minutes in it, anything less than 2K doesn't feel like it's much of a lead at all.
Yeah,
and this is
even
less than
2K.
1,000, yeah. So realistically, they're not able to have the same amount of grip on this game as they did last time. Ferrymen, though, are going to have to react here. Gold Fury started up by the Scorpions, and it's going to kick off a fight. Ugly one just gets taken down. Good damage by Streak Up. The Dharmic Pillar's thrown out by Calvin. They keep Okeanos locked in, but Ice goes forward. The ult has already been expended. Okeanos is low. We'll have to back away. French Emperor is surrounded by 3, and with that, boink forward and aggression from Azriel. That's going to be all they need for the kill there. Yeah, take the tier 1 while you're at it. It's so low. They're going to be able to pick that up. Primal Fury still on the board with Okeanos healing up and everybody else healthy. Should be able to finally swing something in favor of one of these teams. The Ferrymen are going to scoop that one up.
Yeah, had French Emperor's ultimate connected onto Ice, maybe that team fight goes a little bit differently, but Ice narrowly avoids it with a second ability, teleporting to his axe elsewhere to continue his dive onto the Aaru Scorpions. From there, French Emperor says, all right, well, I've already used everything. I'm in combat, my ultimate's down. There's not much retreat potential when I'm lined up against Gunter, who'd already applied the dot damage to him. So instead, digs in his heels, and this Bellona tries his best to shut down the Tiamat. Here's the thing, though, about not having either Hastened or Frostbound on a full auto-attack style Bellona jungle. You don't have any lockdown, you don't have any chase potential once that ultimate is down. So instead of getting his kill, Gunter just kites him around, make sure that French Emperor has to stay there, and eventually the rest of the team able to work their way forward. And the Styx Ferrymen not only take the team fight, not only take the Gold Fury, but also can put the Pyromancer in their coffers as well. We were talking just a moment ago about anything less than 2,000 or even 2,000 not really worth noting. 4,000 though, I think so. That's a nice lead for the Styx Ferrymen.
Yeah, that one feels much better, especially over the course of like a minute and a half where it was like, man, you guys are barely breaking 1K to all of a sudden 4,000. Oh, you're back right into the seat you were in game number 1, and finally with that little bit of control that feels favorable for them. Mifflin, earlier you were talking about coin flips and fire giants, things like that. And I want to ask you about this because it's occurred to me, Ice's ults and the damage, is that like, are you ever going to bank an objective on a chalk ult, or is that too risky?
It's
pretty like a decent chunk of damage.
It's a good chunk of damage. I'm not sure if even that is matching up the pressure of Picarino Rainfire plus Noxious Fumes combo, but
true.
It's
especially
also,
if it's all 3 meteors.
I mean, well, you're only getting burst on 1.
Well, no, you're getting the burst from but if you drop all 3 and 1 stuns, that's a lot more damage than chalk ult, right?
Yeah, but you only have to beat the last meteor if you're chalk.
I guess so. Right.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're right.
So maybe some potential there, but also Ice's ultimate is just an incredible team fight tool that you really don't want to lose out on. That's like saying, yeah, the explosion from Descent into Madness does damage, but are you really using that to confirm an objective? I mean, I don't know. No, I do know. It's no.
Yeah, you hug the fire giant and just scream real loudly at him and hope that it's enough. Yeah, that seems a little risky. Maybe it works out for you in the fact that there's a team fight and you're securing a fire giant.
That could be pretty. That's
awesome.
awesome.
Would maybe kind of link things up together, but even then, that feels risky to try and go for. And I guess that means we'll have to pay close attention with fire giant on the table as pretty much the primary and only neutral objective that's available on the map. Still aggression right now from the Ferrymen seems to be the name of the game for them. Okeanos leading the way on right lane. And it seems like the team is taking a giant shift over towards this FG side. Will be a respawn from the Pyromancer. You'll get the FG all in all.
It's going to be a while
All
on
you
Pyro.
need is like one big ol' fight.
Yeah, I think so. One fight that you have to force. There's no way that the Aaru Scorpions are going to be the aggressor on the objective, so if the Styx Ferrymen want to take a team fight now, it's going to have to be them proactively pulling the fire and forcing the Aaru Scorpions forward. With that said, the Styx Ferrymen do not have the fastest burn on the objective. Their auto attackers do not have the best burn potential, and their mid lane mage generally going to be saving their damage from poke. But it doesn't seem to matter. The Aaru Scorpions are already here.
Well, the fight has been forced. There's a good two-man silence beads forced by Davey. There's the Aegis. Ugly One, though, is just gone. Streak Up walking forward with the team, and now the CC is where it needs to be. Azriel is just chasing down and bullying Davey. Davey forced to ult over the wall and does get out of there. Same thing could be said. Calvin right now, well, he's going to be coming back down and will not escape this one fully. Good news for Davey, though. This is the Jingwei passive playing into effect. We'll be able to rejoin the fray, but Mifflin, you lost both your primary front lines. You know, French Emperor's playing Bologna can theoretically lead the way, but it's not going to be as tanky as those other. Has picked up the Shogun's Kusari. Fire Giant started on one side. Ice just gets deleted thanks to Davey. And that kill gets sponsored by the Scorpions. Now, if they can find any amount of control, they lose French Emperor. They're about to lose Davey, and it's going to be one more hit with the trade-outs. Davey almost pulls it back in their favor. Not enough. Walls are good. Stun is there. Picarino body blocked and killed for the triple to Streak Up, and it should be a free FG on the menu.
Yeah, but it is going to be still slow burn. Out Okeanos, low HP. Azriel, not a whole lot of DPS. It's really just Streak Up putting damage in its objective. It's not the most appetizing defense situation, but Ugly One could potentially walk up and keep this interesting.
Honestly, should, I think, at this point. Like you said, I mean, look how slow this is burning. The little bit of damage you might be able to do could
It's a true coin toss if he gets
what
in.
you need, but
All
no,
right.
Ugly One is going to back away. And now you've got Gunter here, so it's going to be a much easier confirmation. Fire Giant.
Oh, they're allowed to wait because Ugly One doesn't
yeah,
go in.
And they're going to give Ice the FG buff as well. Just a nice little bit of seasoning on the top for that one.
Yeah, I wonder if it's valuable. Okay, so the question is, to phrase it, would you trade Ugly One for Ice in a one-for-one trade if Ice has Fire Giant? If the answer is ever yes, Ugly One needs to be in the Fire Giant pit. Just by being there, it would force the Styx Ferrymen to drop the objective before Ice can get Fire Giant for himself, which is massive. And I think that likely would have been the answer for Ugly One. It's a long shot odds, right? Like you're not guaranteed a steal there by any stretch of the imagination, but it is maybe 20%, 10%, which is much better odds that I think they would have had on the steal than they will have on base defense against this composition of the Styx Ferrymen, because dive is the name of the game with their comp. Between Cthulhu and Shock and even Terra, it's going to be very hard for the Aaru Scorpions to dig in their heels and defend under tier 2s or Phoenixes. So I think Ugly One would have been better suited trading out his life in an attempt for Fire Giant. And worst case scenario, absolute worst case scenario there for Ugly One is that Ice doesn't get fire and Ugly One dies. Best case scenario, Ugly One steals fire and dies. So I think if you're talking risk-reward, the reward far outweighed the risk there.
Well, unfortunately, they don't live in that world, and maybe they will next time, but right now they have to deal with a 5-man Fire Giant and a Cthulhu in the back line. They don't even have everybody over here for a retort, but French Emperor is coming up behind. Gunter leaps forward and is trying to play this one aggressively. Will not find the CC necessary, and now it's a weird split from the Scorpions, but it does not result in any kills. Phoenix goes down on left, and the Scorpions are going to get their chance to reset their defense as the Ferrymen look towards the tier 2 and mid, potentially the tier 2 and right, try to find themselves a second bird.
Yeah, I think I saw a Belt of the Berserker popped by the Aaru Scorpions there, and it just did not do a whole lot for him. Davey still forced the Aegis exclusively. The damage from Azriel, just not ideal situations.
There's the aggression one more time. Calvin's taking a lot of the damage this time. Is tanking majority of it. French Emperor's deep, but Streak Up is just staying alive.
Good
no
Aegis.
problem. The Aegis keeps them going. Ugly One goes deep, and Ugly One's taking way too much damage for an RDO in the late game. A couple more autos is all you need, and they are going to continue to chase. The bird in mid goes down. Right side is all that's left standing. They need the little bit of CC, and they're going to be able to find Ugly One. It's a 2 for none trade. FG ready. Minions in the Titan room with 5 strong, and the Ferrymen are going to walk forward. They're starting to burn down the Titan, and it doesn't seem like they need a lot of help. It's going to get taken down, and the Ferrymen find this one 2-0.
That's almost the exact same slash line as what we saw in game 1 as well. A lot of parity between the 2 games of this set. But at the end of the day, it's the Styx Ferrymen with a 2-0 victory over the Aaru Scorpions, and it was pretty convincing. I was convinced. I can't speak for you.
No, I was pretty convinced. I will say in this one, a lot closer, I think, for a majority of it. More even gameplay. But then once we got to the end of the game, Mifflin, well, not even the end. Once we got to about 20 minutes in, there was one big fight, and that's where the Ferrymen find themselves a good advantage. They get the 2-0 that I think was necessary here for them. So we're going to get to look towards that. What, of course, this could mean for the standings, what it could mean for Masters, all sorts of things about Europe and what we should be expecting out of them, because that is the last game of SCC EU
Phase
1. Tomorrow we'll be in North America.
Heat
We'll
1.
talk about that a little bit a while ago. Yeah, what was it? Heat 1, Phase 1. And then we had Ember something or another, and we'll figure that out as we go back into this. We're going to break that one down again, look forward to Masters and the standings and all sorts of fun stuff here for the EU SEC right after this. Ferrymen who stand 2-0 today over the Scorpions. Unfortunate for the Scorpions, throughout the phase, not able to find a win, but we'll get to look at them maybe a little while later from this point forward, because up next for these guys is going to be a whole lot, well, I guess at first a little bit of waiting, and then a whole lot of Smite to try and play through for a whole week. That's what we're going to be seeing in the EU SCC. But first, Mifflin, let's talk about this game, and maybe just this set in general. The Ferrymen are able to win this one 2-0, and each game, granted with different periods of time before they get their lead, either way, it's the Ferrymen getting a lead and then winning fights and then closing the game out.
Yeah, just very brief moments of fight back that we saw from the Aaru Scorpions. Just moments here and there where you get maybe one team fight, where you find one pick, but they were never quite able to transition it into something substantial. I think the only time where I thought, oh, whoa, the Scorpions are about to set themselves up for a good position here was when they were chasing throughout the jungle, and then the guy on your screen, Ice TPs back all the way to the Scorpion side of the map, and all of a sudden, all the potential for invade, all the potential for objectives is immediately lost out as he bought like 40 seconds, and then from there, well, the Styx Ferrymen just controlled the majority of the team fights. They just controlled the majority of the laning phase. It started quick in Game 2, as it did in Game 1, back in that duo lane, streak up at Okeanos, getting off to a very fast start. From there, some slight slip-ups, so maybe a couple of missteps, but at the end of the day, once the Styx Ferrymen were allowed to group up as 5 and utilize the full strengths of their composition, this 5-on-5 death ball was exactly that, a ball of death. Cthulhu Descent into Madness, there were 0 answers from the Aaru Scorpions. Every single time Beazriel worked his way into the back line of a team fight, he simply stayed there and dominated. Okeanos was possibly the most slippery Terra I've ever seen. That guy walked out of how many team fights with less than 100 HP? Too many, I'd argue. And if things are all lining up like that for you, if everything's going coming up Styx Ferrymen, as will the set, as it has, clearly.
Yeah, as you can see, if you watched that one, or even if you didn't, we've got it picked up right there. We can take a look at what the schedule was today. If you missed out on some of these sets, you'll be able to either catch the VOD or go back. Again, I believe SMITE VOD is where you want to go on YouTube. A bunch of 2-0s. The Mambo show up, make things spicy. The Gladiators, I want to say, in a surprising loss, or maybe a good win just there for the Ravens. And then the Ferrymen taking their 2-0 over the Scorpions right here. Well, it does shake up the standings just a little bit, Mifflin, but from what I've been told, because the Gladiators, I'm going to guess, have the head-to-head over the Ferrymen, they do still manage to shift out just barely that 4th place spot. So we've got your top 4 teams. The Wargs, the Ravens, the Mambo, and the Gladiators will be who shows up in just a few weeks playing in Masters. Now, if you're wondering, I'm probably getting into too much minutia for you, but a lot of these guys
I love to hear it.
Are going to be playing the top 4 from NA SCC, so they have to wait one day to figure out who exactly their opponents are going to be. That'll be determined at the end of tomorrow. They're going to be playing each other for a little bit, and then we're going to be throwing in the Scorpions, the Scarabs, as well as the Valkyries into the fray a little bit towards the end of week 1 of Masters. And then the next week, it's whoever makes it through all that plus the rest of the SPL. It's going to be a lot of Smite for them to worry about. Again, a 2-week event, and that's going to be fun. Mifflin, tomorrow's North America, though. It seems like things are still looking up for us. We've got an interesting week.
Yeah, any time where seeding is on the line, where you can figure out who's coming out to these lands, it's just so important to make sure you're tuning in and watching, because your favorite teams might be playing. The Athenian Sages up against the Weavers, the Eldritch Hounds up against the Tanuki, and the Kowlin Wardens playing Jabalba Storm. Generally, I'd have to look at the dates. That one in particular? I think I'm more Athenian Sages Weavers.
I think, you know what? I'm casting both of those, so I'm going to be really excited for both of them.
Oh, nice.
There we go.
I think I'm casting one of those.
Yeah, you're on the first side.
Yeah, that's why I like it.
Yeah, you love that one a little more because you're there.
That's right.
That's also why you should follow Mifflin at Mifflin TV on Twitter. There you go. I was thinking about that earlier. I wanted to introduce you as Caleb Mifflin Sullivan because I thought it would really mess with you to hear me call you that. Exactly, and that's why I wanted to do it, and I missed out on the opportunity, and so I did it there to mess with you a little bit, at least a little bit. We'll see. Tomorrow morning I'll be there with Mifflin. Maybe I'll mess with him early on a Friday. We'll get to see in North America tomorrow morning, but for Mifflin, for myself, and for Europe, that closes out the SCC today, so make sure you tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. to catch it all over again in North America.
That was a cool throw.